Hey friends, welcome to the Adventures of Blink. I am of course Blink and I am so glad you've joined me today. Make sure you like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so that we'll stay connected. And of course you can drop by the blog at any time for more content as well. Last week we made our game able to save and load, so we now have a working game. Today we're going to learn how to package a Python application in order to distribute it. Let's start by learning how to make an executable out of our code. Okay, so as we kick off these changes, there's something we have to consider before we dig in too deeply to the delivery part of this process. And that is when you're packaging a program for delivery, it's going to act a little bit different than when you're just running it from your terminal or from your editor. You see, you're making some assumptions when you build it in the editor that won't be the same when you have an executable in a directory someplace. So the big thing that we're dealing with is anything from our program that reaches out to talk to a file that doesn't live within the actual code. This includes things like our config JSON file. It'll include all of our level files. It'll include assets like the font. All of those things will have to be packaged up to work in the executable mode as well as still work locally. So we're going to take a look at how to make some of those modifications. I don't think I'm going to make all of them in the episode, but just be aware that you're going to have to make those changes. We'll see how things go. I may actually go back and include that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to look at is actually main.py. We're going to have to come in here and I'm going to expand this a little bit because we need the terminal out of the way so we can do some work. The place we want to look is in our load app config. So see, today it just makes the assumption that it's going to use a file in this directory. But when you're running from an executable, it's sort of packaged up and it's in sort of a subdirectory, and so it has to be able to reach to other places. And so the thing we're going to do here is change the way this open works a little bit. What we're going to go to first of all is we're going to do a config equals right there. Okay, and then afterward, we're going to have to check whether we're in the installed version, like the executable version, or whether we're just running it locally. Because we still want to be able to handle both. As a developer, you don't want to have to rebuild the entire package every time you want to run through a test of the game. So you've got to keep everything working in both situations. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to call for get attribute, and we're going to look in sys frozen false. Okay, and if that is set, then we know we have to go fix our asset paths for everything. So I'm going to make a function, and I'm going to make a call to the function, and then we're going to go build it real quick right after this. So fix asset paths, and I'm going to do config sys dot, and that's a capital MEI pass. Okay. And I think I have to do some includes up here to make this work. I have to bring in import OS, and then I think that takes care of everything I need. All right, so after I've done the fix asset paths, let me scroll back down here in my notes. The next thing we do is return the config, because that's what we were doing originally, was returning the config from load app config. But in this case, we have to add in this one extra helper function that says, maybe I should leave a comment here. So if running in py installer fix asset paths to use the bundled data directory. There we go. Now, we need a fix asset paths. So we're going to go ahead and write that. Fix asset paths. And that's going to take in an object and a base path. So real quick refresher just to run through what this is doing. It's looking for every occurrence of a path name in our config. So we load the config in and we go, oh, look, some of this stuff doesn't point at paths that make any sense because we're running in a PyInstaller installed app. And in that case, we're going to update them just a little bit to use the OS path so that we get an absolute path instead of a relative one. Okay, so the other place that we'll need to actually do this is in level.py. So what we're going to do is shift over here to the core and go to level.py because this is the other place that we actually call out to a file. And so we want to make sure that we address this in all those cases. So right up here, we're going to alter the way a good bit of this works. I'm going to drop in and we're just going to do if get attribute sys frozen false. So again, if we're in a PyInstaller executable, then base path equals path, and we're going to use the system constant. Why isn't system? Oh, because system's not loaded in here. So I need to do an import of system and an import of OS. There we go. Now it will behave better. Okay. So else current file equals path file dot resolve. And this actually you can see is the code from down below. So probably what I should have done is just copied it up. Let's see here. Yeah. But we're going to add in the base path equals current file parents 2. Okay. Then levels.dir would be the next. Yeah, that stays. So I can take these out because I just rewrote them. Okay, and that should keep everything else should work just fine with what we've got. We just needed to make that one adjustment. Okay, so now that we've done the file adjustments, we can get started on the stuff we actually wanted to do today, right? Which is figure out how to use PyInstaller to build our application. So the way we're going to do this, I'm already in my virtual environment, so I'm just going to do a pip install and do PyInstaller. And we'll let that run. Oh, and I've got a pip install upgrade pip. Always keep your pip up to date. Okay, so you'll notice that I didn't add PyInstaller to the requirements.txt. This isn't something that actually goes along for the ride with the application. We use PyInstaller to package the application, but it's not a dependency. So that's a little bit of a subtle distinction because you don't want to bloat your package by including PyInstaller with it at the same time. That just wouldn't be efficient. So I'm doing a manual install there just to kind of have that run. And the way that this is going to work, we're going to need, first of all, to go create a spec file for this. And so I'm going to go back up here, and this is going to be in the root of our project that we keep this. So we're going to do main.spec. Okay, and it's fussing about things in my environment. Don't worry about that. Okay, so the next thing we need is our main.spec file needs to have all of the specifications that PyInstaller needs in order to build it into an executable. I thought this would be really boring because there's a whole lot of things that get left blank in a simple project. There's a lot of options. PyInstaller is pretty robust and it can do a whole bunch of cool things, but I'm not going to make you go through all the boring ones. So what I'm going to do is paste in the one that I've pre-built, and then we're going to talk through kind of the important parts that we see here. All right. So in my first section, I'm calling analysis, and I'm passing it in my entry point. So it needs to know that the application starts from source/main.py. That's what the first block is. The next one, pathx, is the list of folders that contain code for the application. So because we were really disciplined with the way we built this, and the source folder has all of our source code in it, broken out, we can just call the top level folder there source, and it will pick up everything inside it. Binaries would be a place where you would actually add in things that were pre-compiled code. If you had like a C program or an assembly program or something that was used to do some really optimized work. Python isn't always the fastest language for everything. It's just the easiest one for us to kind of understand as humans. But binaries would be things you could add in there if you had other executable components that your program depended on. I don't have any, so it gets left blank. Datas, you see I've got a whole bunch of errors showing up here, and I'm not sure why that is. It's being a little flaky, just in the way it presents things. I think this is an editor problem rather than a problem with the syntax of the spec file. But within the data's variable, you can see like the assets folder is listed, and so it's telling it that you're going to copy over the assets folder from the base, like code base, and it's going to paste it into the executable system, so the assets come along for the ride. And we're doing the same with the app config JSON file. We want to make that available within the program because it's going to need it in order to pull in those variables as we're building. Hidden imports, you see I've got Pygame listed here. This is not 100% necessary, but I figured it was a good example. Hidden imports are for any of your dependencies that your Python program is going to need. And the cool thing about PyInstaller is it's smart enough to pick up most of them. But if you have something weird that's like a custom library, it's not the typical prepackaged thing you go pull out a pip, something like that, then you would want to throw it in here to make sure that the app knew, oh, this external library is required. It won't hurt anything for me to have Pygame listed, but it's not 100% necessary. So that's just something to think about there. Then you can come down here and see the rest of this. This is all boilerplate things. So this will be on GitHub. You can go up and pull down the episode 10 thing and see the spec and see kind of a base copy of what a spec should look like. I'm not going to spend that much time on it. You can do a ton of cool stuff with PyInstaller. We're covering the bare minimum today. All right, so with that said, what we can actually do next, I'm going to open up my terminal a little bit here so we can see it. And I'm going to do a clear, and we can actually try a Python or a PyInstaller build. So we're going to do python-m PyInstaller, and then I'm going to tell it main.spec is what it should use. And let's see what we get. A whole bunch of things happen. It's fun to watch these log files go flying by, and it has built our executable. So you can actually see there's a build directory that was created, which is where it starts to do the packaging work. And then there's a distribution folder, which will contain, it doesn't really show up well here because I'm on a Mac and we don't do file extensions for everything like Windows. But this is actually an executable. So what I can do, I'll go over here and I'll tell this to show up in Finder. And I think it will. There we go. I don't know why I didn't do that the first time. All right, so I could run this, and it's a little bit slow to start up because it's actually spinning up your Python environment within the executable. But overall, it should just accept that and then build out our I missed something. What did I miss? So after a brief review, I actually found what my problem is. It goes back to main.py. There was one section that we left out. We created, if you remember, an additional load app config section and a fix asset paths function to work with it. But what we didn't do was tell it where to get the app config file. And so we've got to go down to our main, and you'll see right now we're just doing a straight load app config. And so this could be a problem for us. What we're going to have to do is check that path before we use it. So I'm going to do config path equals, and I'm just going to grab the constant from there. Then I'm going to do the if get attribute sys frozen false. Okay, so we're running in a PyInstaller, then this would be what executes, and we're going to do config path equals os.path.join. And pull it in that way. So yeah, I left that step out, and leaving that step out is why our executable failed. So I'm going to come back down here, and we're going to rebuild it. And we'll go to our directory here and find the main executable. We'll probably want to go rename this at some point, but I figured it was probably just the best thing to call it for now. Okay, so one more minor error there, and that is that I should have changed this to config path because I need to use the updated config path in the case that I've made it through the if. So now let's try a rebuild. Okay, we see our updated executable there. Now we should be able to run. And our game's now running, except it fails. And after a little bit more review, I was able to find that I missed another thing. I should be more careful in the way that I read my notes when I'm trying to build things. But instead of self.project root here, we're actually going to make this say base path. Oh, this is over in the level.py, where we also made the file adjustments. And so it was failing because it couldn't actually load the level information. And so now we're ready to do yet another build. And let's see how it runs. And the game starts up just like it has in all of our tests. And there you go. We can actually play. So just like that, we've got a working game. Now that we have our project built, we can use a service like itch.io to upload it. Let's head over to my itch account and create the project. Okay, so here we are on my itch.io account. You can see I'm signed in up here. So what I'm going to do is upload a new project. We're going to call this Season 5 Breakout. Follow the adventures of Blink. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is a game. It's downloadable. We're going to call it a prototype, and Itch gives you the option to request a donation. I'm not going to make this a paid thing. First of all, I don't feel good enough about the polish on the product to to put this out there as a paid game. But if you'd like to make a donation to support the Adventures of Blink, by all means, go do so through Itch. That would be fantastic. So we're going to upload. And you know what? Before I do the upload, I'm going to come back here and I'm going to rename this as The Adventures of Blink Season 5 Breakout. Okay, so that when I go upload and go to my documents, go to The Adventures of Blink Season 5 Breakout, I can go to the distribution and pull the executable. Okay, I'm pretty sure we'll run Mac and Linux. Okay, and I'll put in a quick description. And there you have it. We've built an itch page for it. And so our game is now posted out there. If you're a follower of the Adventures of Blink, feel free to stop by and download the executable, or go out to GitHub and build your own. And with that, we've reached the end of Season 5 here on the Adventures of Blink. I want to take just a minute here at the end to thank you if you've been following along with me throughout this season. I do this because I enjoy it and because I want to share that joy with all of you. I really appreciate my fellow adventurers. I hope you're learning alongside me, and I hope our shared adventures are inspiring you to go build on your own too. Now remember to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so that you'll know when I return this fall with Season 6. And make sure you stop by the blog each week for new content there. We'll see you around.